Hello, it's Sunday, August the 2nd, and I thought I would show you a newspaper. Here it is, it's a copy of The Guardian, but you'll see that the date is Saturday, August the 2nd, 1986. And you'll see that the headlines are about Thatcher coming under pressure because she was stopping the sanctions against South Africa, or at least coming under huge pressure. Why have I got a copy of the Guardian newspaper and several other newspapers for August the 2nd, 1986? Well, it was the day when Claire and I got married. Yes, we've been married 34 years. A lot's happened in that time. Of course it has. And some of the people who are in this newspaper, aren't around anymore. On that day, August the 2nd, Steve Cram was in the 1500 metre final of the Commonwealth Games. But he didn't get the headlines so much as Margaret Thatcher being pelted with eggs and beer cans when she went to the stadium in Edinburgh to watch the games. But anyway, that was a long, long time ago. But weddings, curiously, are in the news again at the moment, aren't they? With some of the wedding industry saying that, well, they don't know what to do. There was a wedding photographer who was saying that out of 44 weddings booked for this year, he thinks that he's only got 3 that are going to actually happen. Difficult times. All kinds of problems associated with weddings at the moment. As we know only too well with our own daughter's wedding, just having celebrated its minus 1th anniversary on Friday, July the 31st, was exactly 1 year from when she is going to hopefully get married. Dave Allen, the Irish comic, famously said that there were 4 rings associated with a wedding, all of which cost. First one's the engagement ring, he said. Second one is the wedding ring. The third one is the catering. And the fourth one is the lifelong suffering that follows. Curiously, our gospel today is a story about catering and also about suffering. It's the Matthew version of the only miracle story that occurs in all 4 Gospels. It's the feeding of the 5,000, or 5,000 plus, because there were 5,000 men and lots of women and children as well. None of the Gospels actually says much about what Jesus actually did. They have a lot of the story leading up to the actual event of the miracle itself, and they have quite a lot of commentary on what resulted from it, but not that much on the event itself. It seems as if the gospel writers are agreed that, well, no one understood what happened, but they recognised what led up to it and what resulted from it. And perhaps it's right that we don't spend a ton of time worrying about how it happened or what precisely happened, so much as the significance of what happened. But I said that this is a story about catering and about suffering. And I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of the fact that the story that comes immediately before the feeding of the 5,000 is the killing of John the Baptist at a very different sort of a feast. the one in Herod's palace, and a very different sort of kingdom that's being exhibited. And Jesus does not take this lightly. He really struggles with the news that he's heard, and he wants to withdraw to a remote place. But what he finds is that loads of people come with him. Perhaps they felt gutted as well. And actually, that's a good word for how Jesus was feeling, because the wonderful word that is used in the Greek to describe how Jesus felt was splanknidzesthai, which is my favourite New Testament Greek word. It means deeply moved, but splanknids is actually the root word for your bowels. It really is gutted. It's at the core of who you are. Jesus felt it deeply, and the crowds probably were similarly distracted from all the things that usually they need to think about, which is why they may not have had any food with them when they went out to seek some kind of message from Jesus. What was it all about? How was this kingdom that John the Baptist had spoken of and that Jesus had alluded to, how is it going to work when Herod can just willy-nilly have John the Baptist executed? So the before part of the story is really important, because it shows us that Jesus deeply cares about people, not just his friends and his family like John the Baptist, but actually all the crowds there as well. He took great pity on them. Splanknidzesthai. He was so deeply moved by people's need, and he healed the sick, and he cared for them in a physical way, as well as in the sense of their spiritual redemption. So we have a God who cares. That's what this story says. A God who's not aloof or distant or remote or uncaring about what happens in our human lives, but who cares deeply. And then the story continues to speak about what happens afterwards. It doesn't go into a huge amount of detail. We know that there's a whole load of food left over, but the important thing is that everyone is fed. There were thousands there, with only a small resource at the very start of it all, until Jesus came on the scene. The disciples had said, well, send them away, but Jesus says they don't need to go anywhere else. Jesus has everything that people need, and all are fed. Even in that remote place, that wilderness place, that desert place, that place where we ask the deepest questions, where we wonder about the significance of it all. It's there that people are fed, and that will happen to us as we put our trust in God as well. In the midst of all that sweeps us off our feet, pulls the rug from underneath us, in the midst of all our doubts and our questions and our wondering what on earth is happening at the moment, we will be fed as we put our trust in God.